to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd, and your Philadelphia Union finished in 4th place after falling to the Colorado Rapids in penalty kick shootouts by a score of 3-1. The game ends 2-2 in regulation, which means, unfortunately, the Union aren't going to make the CONCACAF Champions Cup for next season via League's Cup, and disappointing, we all know. Last year, the Union qualified for the competition, beating Monterrey in the 3rd place game. This year, they fall in penalty kicks, and it's disappointing. And we'll break down that game here in a bit. But I don't know how you guys are as you guys are joining now via YouTube. If you guys are listening to this on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, wherever you guys listen to your podcasts, if you guys aren't listening to us live, we've been doing the podcast now live the last 3 episodes now. This is the 4th episode live now on YouTube. And so still trying to correct it and whatnot and make sure that, more and more of you guys can join while we go live. Again, for whatever reason, whenever I try to broadcast a live post, it never posts, but it doesn't matter. Hopefully the intro sounds good for you guys live as you guys join on YouTube. I know the intro and all the sound bites sound good on the podcast feed when you guys listen to this. But if you're joining us live, I thank you guys so much. And I hope you guys had a good weekend. And yes, it's disappointing that the Union drew and then ultimately lost in penalty kicks. But for me, myself, and this is my show, and so I can say and do whatever I want, but fantastic weekend for me. So Union had practice on Saturday, and because of my job, I can never get to practice during the week. And so whenever they practice on Saturdays, which wasn't a lot during the League's Cup, I've been able to attend practice. So it was great going up to practice on Saturday and talking to Jim Curtin, Quinn Sullivan, Alejandro Bedoya. And then afterwards, and this is where some of you guys may tune me out, but I don't care because it's my show. So I was debating all day. I was like, do I go to the All-Time Low concert? One of my all-time favorite bands you guys can see live rocking a Paramore shirt. Also one of my favorite bands, but I've never seen All-Time Low in concert. They were playing the last concert of the summer at Merriweather Post Pavilion down in Columbia, Maryland. And so I was debating all day, do I go down there? Do I not? So a couple hours before the concert starts, I bought tickets and had a fantastic time down there. First time I ever seen All-Time Low. And yeah, I just remember back in 2006, I believe it was, is when I got introduced to All-Time Low. Or in 2007 when they put out their very first album that year. They had an EP out that was fantastic, Put Up or Shut Up. And then they come out with So Wrong It's Right. And I remember in middle school, and I don't even know how this conversation came up, but my middle school teacher was big into All-Time Low, and somehow he found out that I was into the band. And he let me know. He's like, in 2005, 2 years ago, they played at Joelinton High School. That's the high school that I would eventually go to. And I was like, no, I didn't. So he showed me this video. They played the Party Scene, which if you're an All-Time Low fan, you guys know the song. And I was like, this is so cool. And so I've been hooked on All-Time Low ever since and never taken the opportunity to go see them until Saturday night. And what a fantastic time. Went by myself. And for you guys listening to the podcast, I don't know how many of you guys know me personally, and maybe it doesn't come off this way, but I'm extremely introverted. I'm extremely shy, which maybe is a little bit surprise for you guys because I do a podcast, but yeah, I struggle to talk to people in person, and it usually takes somebody else to break the ice before I break the ice. So for me to step out of my comfort zone and go to a concert by myself, I'm very proud of myself, and especially a band like All-Time Low, a band I've never seen in person, and like I said, one of my all-time favorite bands. And so went by myself, and there was these 2 girls, Adriana and Ashley. They were in front of me, and maybe like 5 songs throughout All-Time Low set, they're like, yeah, just come forward, come with us. So shout out to Adriana and Ashley. And this is so cool because I only listened to the first 3 albums by All-Time Low. I only knew those like really, really well. I knew the later albums, but not the greatest. And so Adriana was trying to teach me the lyrics to Somewhere in Neverland. And I appreciate the effort. And so if we can get a hashtag going, hashtag find Adriana, because I know no way in hell she listens to this podcast, but yeah, let's start that hashtag find Adriana just to tell her, hey, I appreciate you trying to teach me the lyrics to the song. I was struggling. I could not get it, but dance, had fun, and did something out of my comfort zone. So yeah, shout out to myself. Shout out to Adriana and Ashley for helping me, just have a good time. And All Time Low put on a fantastic concert, but it's enough music talk, I'm sure, for you guys. But by the way, yeah, I didn't say this too. Yeah, they were from Central Jersey. And of course, I had to make a Philadelphia Union joke. And yeah, oh man, you guys are from the wrong part of Jersey. You guys aren't from South Jersey. So people in Philly don't accept you, or at least Union fans don't accept you. And yeah, they knew who the New York Red Bulls were. So that was pretty cool. So hashtag find Adriana. But we're going to go ahead and talk about the news. We're going to go ahead and talk about the Philadelphia Union versus Colorado Rapids game. We're going to go ahead and talk about some comments from Jim Curtin, comments from Alejandro Bedoya, and I think that's it. I almost said Quinn Sullivan, but I don't think we have anything from Quinn. And then 3 stars, blunder of the week. And we're going to go ahead and test this again because when we first went live, we did the news intro and it was echoey, feedbacky. So hopefully that's not the case here. So we do have 2 news points that I want to get to. So without further ado, let's get straight into the news. All right, so the first bit of news that I want to get to, you guys all know this. You guys all paid attention to it. The Columbus Crew beat LAFC by a score of 3-1 in the Leagues Cup final. Cucho Hernandez scored 2 goals in that game. And yeah, for whatever reason, well, I know the reason, the Columbus Crew are the best team in MLS. And they could possibly be the best team in North America. And they just have LAFC's number. And to LAFC's credit, they fought back, tied the game up at 1 apiece. But towards the dying embers of this game, it looked like it was going to go into penalty kicks. But Cucho Hernandez said, no, not so fast, scores his 2nd goal of the match, then gets an assist. And that's now 2 trophies in the last 9 months by Columbus, who the Philadelphia Union play this Wednesday. And Jim Curtin, some of the players were saying, yeah, hopefully Columbus are hungover, whatever word you want to use, Jim Curtin said. Hopefully the Union can take advantage of that and get 3 points against Columbus this Wednesday night. But yeah, they're a fantastic team. And we saw that when the Union had to play them in Leagues Cup and ultimately beat the Union 3-1 in that game as well. And then the last bit of news, I don't know how many people saw this, haven't seen it. The Union haven't officially announced it, but Union have sold Jamaican international Damion Lowe to Saudi Arabia. Damion Lowe joined the Union in 2023, making 47 appearances and scoring 3 goals. In 2024, he had a guaranteed contract of $343,000. Lowe now signs a 2-year deal. The Union get $200,000 for a player that was out of contract at the end of the season. And so this is good because the Union got something for a player that they weren't going to resign in the offseason. But at the same time, now your depth goes even farther down the drain. We talked about it last week with Jose Martinez being gone, and now we have Damion Lowe being gone, which means Nate Harriel's going to be your 3rd center back. And for people who haven't paid attention, Jack Elliott, if he gets a yellow card this Wednesday against Columbus, he would be suspended for the Saturday match against New York Red Bulls, which would be a disaster for the Union, which means, okay, because Nate Harriel's not only your 3rd center back, but he's also your backup left back. Things are very, very, very screwy for the Union right here, leaving themselves extremely thin defensively. Yes, losing Jose Martinez was huge, but you had a little bit more in midfield depth compared to what you had defensively. Oluwatu Makanya, I know, is a natural center back, but there's no way I see him playing a match this season for the Union. He started tonight for Union 2. Union 2 tied against Columbus Crew 2, 1-1. Union 2, I think, won on penalties 5-4. How many of you guys watching that game? I'm not sure, but yeah, it's concerning if anything happens to the Union defensively. Losing Damion Lowe hurts, and he's a guy, like I said, Union weren't going to resign in the offseason. Wanted to get paid. The Union didn't feel comfortable paying him, and, well, now you got to stay with the players that you have. And you can sign players as free agents until September 13th, I think it is, through roster freeze. Sometime in September. Somebody in the comments can let me know when the MLS roster freeze is. So, I mean, if there's players that are free agents, the Union could go out there theoretically and sign them. But I don't know. I don't have any hope that the Union will do that. So, yeah, fingers crossed nobody gets hurt for the Union. Hopefully nobody gets suspended. But with how aggressive this team is, yeah, you could see Jack Elliott getting a yellow card and missing the game against New York Red Bulls, which would not be ideal. At the same time, too, you don't want anybody getting hurt. So, yeah, it's tough for the Union, but these are the players that they have, and they only made one move to bring somebody in when they had the opportunity to. So, yeah, we'll see what the Union do. But let's go ahead and move on to the Philadelphia Union versus Colorado Rapids match. And so this game, I don't know how you guys felt. If you guys remember the match last year in MLS play against Colorado Rapids, this was a completely different Rapids team, I thought. Colorado, when you looked at them, they moved the ball much quicker than when these two teams played last year out in Colorado. I thought that Colorado also pressed a little bit more, better than they did last year. And again, a lot of this is because of their manager, Chris Armas, the former New York Red Bulls manager, former Toronto FC manager. And so he brings a lot of those ideas with the Red Bulls to Colorado. And to their credit, they've picked up on it fast. They look like a completely different team. And you saw all the Liga MX teams that Colorado beat this League's Cup to get them a third place finish. They were maybe the biggest surprise in League's Cup for a lot of people. I know certainly I am surprised they beat the Union, frankly, yesterday on penalty kicks. And they even scored first. I was shocked by that. But this is a completely different Colorado team, and maybe that caught the Union by surprise a little bit. And the Union should have used the traveling that Colorado had to do to their advantage, because they flew in from having played against LAFC, and they had to fly all the way across country from Colorado. And so the Union should have been a little bit more fresher. And yeah, I mean, the Union, I don't think had a great second half at all. Only one shot on target. Colorado only had one shot on target as well, but it was at that goal that went in and tied the game up at 2 apiece. And I know Jim Curtin said at the end that, yeah, maybe there was a little bit of obstruction there on Andre Blake. Andre Blake couldn't see the shot, but regardless, they said the goal stands. And a really, really boring half, I thought. That's now 4 games without a clean sheet for the Union. Again, you're seeing them maybe struggle a little bit defending set pieces the last couple games. You look at the game against Mazatlan where they scored off of a set piece, and then you had Andre Blake who had a big save in the second half, which should have honestly have been 2-1 Mazatlan. But Andre Blake's going to give you those big saves like he usually does. You usually get one big key save from Andre Blake, and he gave you one in this game too against Colorado in the 29th minute. And so the Union, to their credit, you go down 1-0 because of a goal by Calvin Harris. And I'm trying to pull this up. I'm not going to play it. I don't want to get this YouTube video banned on YouTube. Even though I know I post the goals breakdown videos, but sometimes my videos don't post, and then I have to get clever in how I cut the video. So I don't want to take the risk and show you guys the goal and then the live stream gets cut because Apple doesn't like me playing the video. But yeah, I mean, you look at that goal and you guys can go on Apple TV. I'm sure the highlights are up on YouTube. Colorado wins the ball back in their own half. You have Jacob Glesnes and Leon Flock going for the same ball. They miss it. And so because of that, you have Navarro, who's in a 1v1 situation against Jack Elliott. You have Calvin Harris, who gets by Kai Wagner. And so it's really a 2v1 situation. It's a good ball played by Navarro, and it's a good finish there by Calvin Harris to put Colorado up 1-0. But we see the Union capitalize 3 minutes later with Tai Baribo. It's a set-piece opportunity by the Union. Kai Wagner sends a good ball in, gets cleared away. Union keeps the ball alive. It's a great switch of play by Mikel Uhr to switch the ball from the left side of the field to the right side of the field, which was so weird seeing Kai Wagner on that right side of the field. He wins the header into Tai Baribo. Tai Baribo's unmarked back post and then heads it into the back of the net. And then you see, again, 3 minutes later, Tai Baribo gets his second goal of the match. It's a good cross whipped in by Olivier Bizo. Union keep the ball alive. Quinn Sullivan has a terrific shot that bounces off the post, and then Union again keeping the ball alive. It's a ball sent in Tai Baribo right there to collect it and put it in the back of the net. Just really, really good finishing, good awareness by Tai Baribo. And it's something I think that we've seen all season long from Baribo, where he seems to be in the right place, right time. And I think that that's huge for the Union. That's going to be huge for the Union going forward. The rest of the way to rely on him, the form that he's on. And we can talk about that here in a little bit. Another thing that I wanted to point out about this game is it seemed like, particularly in the first half, you had the Union attacking Abubakar pretty hard on the night. They kept going at him all the time, and yeah, he struggled. And Jim Curtin, in the clip that I'm going to play, you're going to hear him talking about, yeah, we created a lot of chances. We should have had more goals than the two that they scored on the night. And I agree, because Abubakar was not great. Keegan Rosenberry, the Union attacked him pretty hard in the night too. And then you look at Zach Steffen, the goalkeeper. Yes, he makes 2 saves in the penalty shootout, but he spilled a lot of balls. When he came to collect, a lot of balls hit the ground, and the Union, if they were a little bit quicker to react, they could have just poked that in the back of the net and had multiple goals in this game. So I understand completely why Jim Curtin feels like the Union should have had more goals in this game, because the Union were doing all the right things, attacking the weak links in this Colorado team. But to their credit, we say it all the time with the Union, it's okay to bend, but as long as you don't break, you're okay. And Colorado did not break. They get the first goal, and then they concede 2 more, and then they come out of the half and get 3 consecutive corner kicks, I believe it is, and eventually score to tie the game up. And you saw a lot of Philadelphia Union fight in Colorado that we've seen from the Union here lately. And so I do think ultimately this game probably deserved to go 2 penalty kicks. You also had Abubakar, who had a opportunity late in the second half. His shot goes off the post. I know there was questions, like, is he offside? Is he not? Watching that replay, it looked like Kai Wagner kept Abubakar on. And so the Union, I guess, maybe are a little bit fortunate that they didn't concede a second goal in the second half to Colorado. But at the end of the day, they weren't great in penalty kicks. We see Daniel Gazdag miss again in a penalty shootout. He's now 1 for 5 in penalty shootouts, 30 out of 31 during regular season play. And it's great. It's great when the pressure is not on for Daniel Gazdag, but it seems like whenever the Union get to these penalty shootouts, when it matters, yeah, he just cannot convert. And so you hope that when Daniel Gazdag, if the Union play any more shootouts this year, that he can wipe those demons away from him and, maybe start a new streak. But yeah, being 1 for 5 from penalty shootouts is not great from Daniel Gazdag. You see Tai Baribo, who scored 2 goals in this game, have his penalty saved. You also saw Olivier Biza, which I thought was so weird that he stepped up and had the penalty and he hits the post. Watching the Union practice penalties on Saturday, I didn't think Olivier Biza looked great. Yeah, he scored, but he didn't hit the ball the greatest. And yeah, he didn't look that confident when he stepped up there to take that penalty. Jack Elliott, the only Union player to convert, fantastic penalty. And I don't know, should there be discussions that Jack Elliott should be the number 1 penalty taker for the Union in shootouts? Because he's not missed one, and gonna knock on wood there so I don't jinx it. Probably did. But yeah, Jack Elliott, every time that he steps up, I feel confident that he's going to put it in the back of the net. And I'm sure part of that is because he used to be a striker when he was at West Virginia University. So he knows how to strike a ball. But for whatever reason, Daniel Gazdag just cannot get past the demons in the penalty shootouts, going 1 for 5. And at the end of the day, Union didn't take their chances, didn't capitalize on their chances in the first half, and they wind up losing in the shootout. We saw Jesus Bueno make his first start since July 13th against Toronto FC. Bueno has started 9 games now this season for the Union. He's appeared in 21 games overall for over 800 minutes played this season. It was a big opportunity for him, and I thought he played good on the night. He went 0 for 5 winning his tackles, which is a little bit concerning. Jose joining here on YouTube. I don't know why your comment didn't come across. It says, sup, BB. What's up, Jose? Thank you for joining live. And everybody else who's with us live on YouTube, spread the word on Facebook, on Twitter, Instagram, wherever. I don't think we're live streaming on Facebook, even though I have it set up. So again, I guess it's going to have to be something that we mess with. But man, it is so it is so weird. It's so weird just seeing how messed up live streaming is on this app, but we're not going to complain about any further on this show. Yes, I mean, Union lose on penalties, and Jose definitely distracted me there, but it's okay. It's all love. So my question I have for you guys is, have we seen a player in better form than Tai Baribo for the Union? He winds up winning the Golden Boot in League's Cup with 7 goals. We've now seen him score 5 times this season of 2 or more goals, 4 braces, 1 hat trick. He has 13 goals in 13 games, 6 goals in his last 4. I mean, I struggle, honestly, to think about a player in Union history. And I know we're going so far to think about players that have been in really good form. And even when like Julian Carranza was here, I don't think Julian ever went on a run as good as Tai Baribo right now. Yes, the front 3 of Julian, Daniel, and Mikel were all in terrific form in 2022 as a whole, but a specific player, maybe Daniel Gazdag, but how many of those goals in 2022 were from the penalty spot? And yes, those goals count. You obviously scored, but we're seeing Tai Baribo just score so many goals from open play, from outside of the box, inside the box. And like we said 10 minutes ago, he's just always finding the right spots to be, putting the ball in the back of the net, right place, right time. And I don't know, I struggle. I really do struggle to think of any player that's ever been in as good a form as Tai Baribo. Maybe Andre Blake, because of all the saves that he gives you every single game. You could make a case that Andre Blake's always in really good form with his saves, but a outfield player, I don't know. I can't think of anybody. You guys that are live on YouTube, chime in. Let me know. I mean, who comes to your mind? People that are listening on Apple or Spotify, let me know on social media at Free Kick Pod, at It's a Todd's Life, if you can think of anybody in Union history that's been in greater form. I really cannot think. It's going to be recency bias, I'm sure, if there is a player that's been in as good as form as Tai Baribo right now, if not better. But I don't know, I struggle. I don't think Julian Carranza's ever had a run like Tai Baribo. 13 goals in 13 games. And look, to his credit, once Julian got sold, he had the opportunity to start when Julian was here. And I see fans say this all the time. Well, imagine if Tai Baribo was playing more when Julian Carranza was here. Imagine what they could have done. And I know Kyle and Jelly and Almany always say on their show, they have a segment that they do sometimes called What If? And I'm sure they talk about this, saying, what if Tai Baribo played more when Julian Carranza was still here? What if you paired Tai Baribo and Julian Carranza together? What could have happened? And yeah, we could play this game endlessly. But the fact of the matter is, Tai Baribo wasn't playing when Julian Carranza was here. And now he gets the opportunity. And he's taken every single advantage. And you look at this team, and in my opinion, it does feel like the Union are punting on the season. You trade away depth in the center back with Damion Lowe. We talked about it. We talked about it last episode, selling Jose Martinez. You sell Julian Carranza. Really disappointing to only bring in one player, Danley Jean Jacques, who I think is going to be a fantastic player. We'll play a clip later on in the show with Jim Curtin saying what he believes his best position is, what positions he can play. But yeah, I mean, you get rid of so many players and you only bring in one player, and it's disappointing. It's disappointing to get excited for this team going forward for the rest of the year. And we talked about it last year. They have a lot of game for 2025. And I'm personally more excited for what could happen. And it goes back to Kyle and Jillian saying, what if? I go back to what the potential of 2025 could be. There's no reason, no excuses why the Union don't have a big winter with all the money they have in GIM. There's no excuses. It's up to the owners to spend money, to pay transfer fees. I think the Union had the right people in place in the front office, the coaching staff. I think Jim Curtin's fantastic. His assistant coaches are fantastic. I think there are still good core players for this team. And maybe if you would have brought in 1 or 2 more players in the summer transfer window, I think a lot of fans would feel a lot more confident in this team going forward the rest of the season with 9 games to be played. But you only bring in one player. and we're seeing more and more players get sold. I mean, the window's not closed yet in Europe. And so don't think that, okay, now everybody else is safe. That's not the case at all. The Union could still wind up selling players. If a good enough offer comes for Jack McGlynn or Quinn Sullivan, the Union aren't going to turn that down. They're not. Because if they were going to turn it down, they would have turned down the offer for Jose Martinez. They would have turned down the offer for Damion Lowe. But it's better to get something for Damion Lowe who's not re-signing for you next season. It's better to get something for Jose Martinez right now when he's not going to have higher value than what it is currently. And I know that's hard for fans to accept, but it is a business. It is a business. And so you say, you know what? We're going to see what we can do the rest of the season. The first half of the season, it was a major disappointment. We still have Andre Blake, the best goalie in the league. Tai Baribo is in terrific form. We're going to ride him until he can't score anymore. Kai Wagner, I think, has had a good season. Nate Harriel's had a good season this year. Like we said, there's a big opportunity for Jeśus Bueno. We saw what he did in Leagues Cup last year. He could be on fire and score goals for this team too. Quinn Sullivan, I think, is better coming off the bench. Could be an option off the bench. Leon Flock's going to give you what he gives you defensively, but there's not many players left that excite you, that you feel like can take this team far throughout the playoffs. At least in my opinion, I don't feel like it. The players I named, your goalkeeper and Andre Blake, Tai Baribo, and your two fullbacks are really the only players that excite me, that I have any trust and belief in this season. The rest of the players, it's like, okay, well, they get in good form, great. If not, then I wouldn't be surprised. And we'll see what happens. I guess Sam Adeniran, I mean, we talked about Danley Jean Jacques, but Sam Adeniran really hasn't done much in his games. Yes, the press is good, but man, the Union really needs somebody off the bench to score goals. And you were hoping that that would be Sam Adeniran. And so far, he's not been able to put the ball in the back of the net. So, yeah, long tangent there to talk about, okay, what players have you seen in past Union teams be in better form than Tai Baribo? There's nobody that really comes to mind. And so my next segment that I want to talk about, my question to you guys, the listeners, was Leagues Cup a success or a failure by the Union? I have a lot of thoughts on this, and this could take up most of our time on the podcast. I do have a clip lined up about, I believe this is Jim Curtin after the game, talking about the form that the Union had during Leagues Cup and then prior to Leagues Cup. And so this is Jim Curtin talking about, the rest of the season and how to carry that momentum from what they did in the Leagues Cup into the last 9 games of the season.
Some positive momentum, I think, from this competition, and had 2 really good wins in the league before the break for Leagues Cup. So while this is a painful one to lose in PKs, you have to take the good performances and the decent results that we've gotten recently and try and build on them, because it doesn't get easier, right? Columbus comes in Wednesday. Obviously, they'll play right now. We'll be on the same rest. It'll be a difficult game, but at home, our margins, because we had such a poor first half of the year, are really small. So I think the group will bounce back and put together a team for Wednesday that can play with the right intensity. I thought, again, we started the game really well, and I thought we were all over Colorado for whatever the chances we created. I think could have had more goals, but at the same time, it wasn't enough. They scored, a little bit of an unlucky one with Leon on the tackle on the first goal, and then the second one, we give up 3 consecutive kind of corner kicks at the beginning of the half, and when you do that, you leave things to chance. And the kid hit a good shot. I think Dre was a little obstructed, but goal counted, and we paid for it.
All right, so there's no need for me to go ahead and talk about what Jim Curtin just talked about. We talked about the play where Leon Flock and Jacob Glesnes both get stuck going for the same ball. And then you heard Jim Curtin talk about how he thought that Andre Blake was obstructed. No need to talk about that. Jim Curtin, one thing I want to focus on, and maybe the 2 things that he said in there that I want to focus on. He said, I think from this competition, we had really good wins in the league before the break for Leagues Cup. So while this is a painful one to lose in PKs, you have to take the good performances and then decent results that we've gotten recently and try to build on them, because it doesn't get easier, right? And he's not wrong. I mean, you look at the schedule. They played on Sunday, they're going to play on Wednesday, and they're going to play on Saturday. 3 games in 6 days. We're going to hit on that here in a little bit because I asked Alejandro Bedoya that on Saturday about, losing an extra rest day. And I asked Jim Curtin that too. And both of them gave good answers. We're only going to play the clip from Alejandro Bedoya. If you guys want to hear what Jim Curtin said, then the Union posted that press conference from Saturday on YouTube. I'll leave a link in the description if you guys want to listen to that. But yeah, you look, 2 wins. You had wins against New England. You had wins against Nashville. You look at the League's Cup results. You finished in 4th place. You finished in 3rd last year. 3 out of the Union's last 4 games at Subaru Park have ended in draws. And I don't know. Is that concerning at all to you guys? Now, I do want to give context because context matters. We know context matters. It was a 1-1 draw against Cruz Azul. The Union lose on penalties, 5-3. The Union come back late in that game with a late goal by Daniel Gazdag. So props to the Union for still having fight, for having belief, and getting a late equalizer with Daniel Gazdag. Point 2, you draw 1-1 against Mazatlan. Union score first in that game. Tai Baribo gets sent off because of 2 yellow cards and a red card. It becomes. Then you play down 10 men for 45 minutes. Union win on penalties 4-3. Then you have a draw against Colorado 2-2. Union concede first, score the next 2 goals. Then you concede, lose 3-1 on penalties. And so overall, in 7 games in League's Cup, the Union went 3-1-3. They had a very, very impressive win against Cincinnati 4-2, where it was just goals galore in that game. Union lose to Columbus, their only loss in the competition, 3-1. And we actually saw the Union tie that game up. And so I think, if anything, to take a positive, you find a late equalizer against Cruz Azul. You get 2 goals against Colorado and take the lead. You go ahead and put up 4 goals on the road against Cincinnati. I believe you actually conceded first in that game against Cincinnati too. Somebody can correct me on that. And so you go to Columbus, you concede first, but then you tie the game up. And so a lot of belief. And that's not what we saw earlier on in the season from this team. Once they would concede, heads would drop, and it felt like they weren't going to get out of any result that they were in the first half. If they were tied and they give up a goal, you didn't feel like they were going to go and equalize and go on and win the game. The game against Chicago still haunts me because there's no reason why the Union should have blown a 3-1 lead. You lose that game 4-3. That's really disappointing. And I don't get the same sense with this team. And a big part of that is because Andre Blake's back. And I can't remember if I talked about it on the show last week or if I was talking to people off air about this. But there's been lots of times on this podcast in the past where I said the most important player to this Union team is Kai Wagner. And I don't believe that anymore. And I think this season's the greatest example of that. Look at how bad the Union were without Andre Blake. And yes, I said something about Quinn Sullivan last week, about all the losses the Union have with him playing up top. Yes, a lot of those losses were without Andre Blake in goal. Andre Blake makes a huge difference for this team. And he's 100% the most important player to this team. No offense to Oliver Zemler or Andrew Rick. They're just not Andre Blake. The next important player I would say is Kai Wagner, especially because you don't have a backup left back. And now you don't have a third center back. And so you could argue that Nathan Harriel is the 3rd most important player on this Union team just because of all the different positions he plays. But by far, the most important player on this Union team is Andre Blake. Jose chimes in here and says, context is everything, Todd. Yeah, we learned a hard lesson. Or I should say I learned a hard lesson, right, Jose? It's all good. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, just listen to the Union's press conference on Saturday. You guys will understand exactly what Jose and I are talking about. But yeah, I think it's disappointing, right? Because I don't think Union are winning MLS Cup. You want to play in CONCACAF Champions Cup. Alejandro Bedoya said that on Saturday. This team wants to play in Champions Cup. Quinn Sullivan said the players want to play in Champions Cup. They all realize how big this is. You had a huge opportunity. You qualified for Champions Cup last year by winning the 3rd place game, and now you blow your chance. You're at home once again in the 3rd place game. and you give up a set piece goal, the only shot on target by Colorado in the second half. And it's disappointing that you don't look good on penalties. Only win one penalty shootout. And is that a concern for fans? If the Union have to go on penalties in MLS play, are you confident in this team with penalties after watching them lose on penalties against Cruz Azul? They've lost now against Colorado, and they beat Mazatlan. Are you concerned with this team in penalties? I think I am a little bit surprised that Olivier Baiza was selected to be one of the penalty takers, but I'm not on the coaching staff, and now I guess there's a reason why they choose who they choose. But Jack Elliott, fantastic. He should definitely take your first penalty, in my opinion. But overall, yeah, I mean, I think you got to be happy with the win against Charlotte, who's one of the best defensive teams. You got to be happy with your win against Montreal, even though Montreal's got awful. I saw they got destroyed. 5 goals, I think they conceded against New England over the weekend. Going into TQL Park, you score 4 goals. It's positive. Prior to Leagues Cup, you won a 2-game winning streak. And so, yes, you hope that some of this momentum that you had, the only loss, like we said, was against Columbus. So you hope that you can find just this fine form that you're in. I would still argue, even though they had a loss against Columbus, they were in good form. Yeah, it's maybe a little bit concerning that the Union had 3 draws at home, all went to penalty kicks. But at the end of the day, they weren't losses. And how many times was Union losing early in the season at home? What was it? 6, 7 losses at Subaru Park? First time ever in team history that they've done that or something? Or 6 or 7 straight losses. That's the first time they've ever done that. So, yeah, I mean, at least they weren't losses. You look at the schedule, and I guess we can go ahead and bring that up here, is Columbus on Wednesday. Then you go to Red Bull on Saturday. Then the league stops for 2 weeks because of international duty. And then the last 7 games, you are away at Miami on September 14th. And then September 18th on Wednesday, you're away at New York City. Then on Sunday, September 22nd, you're at home against DC United. And then September 28th, you're at home against Atlanta. And then October 2nd, you're away at Orlando. October 5th, you're away at Columbus. And then you end the season on October 19th at home against Cincinnati. And so the Union have 4. That's it. Just 4 home games left the rest of the season. And then everything else away games. And I'm not concerned with the Union going away on the road because we talked about it. The Union were 500 in all competitions prior to losing to Columbus. And even with that loss to Columbus, I still think this Union team's a very good team on the road. I'll say that. A very good team. They're not good. They're a very good team. I wouldn't say they're great, but they're good. They're very good on the road. I'm surprised that they're as good as they are on the road, honestly. But it's a lot of pressure, and it's a lot of games here these next 3 days. These next 6 days total. You had the game yesterday against Colorado. Now you have Columbus on Wednesday, and then you go to New York Red Bulls. And so I asked Alejandro Bedoya on Saturday, you guys have played a lot of games in the past, 3 games in 7 days, but this is the first time in a while that you guys have had 3 games in 6 days. How different is that for you guys, losing that extra day of rest? And this is what Alejandro had to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's no secret anywhere. Wherever you are in the world, 3 games in a week is tough. So that's where you need to have some rotation, and you need to have some depth, and you need to be able to count on that depth. And those players that are given chances have to be able to perform and do well. So, I think you'll see some of that this week. And like I said, we need to make a run into the playoffs. So tomorrow, win, make sure we get a Champions Cup spot for us, for the players, but also for the club, and then focus right back into leagues play because these 2 games coming up are huge towards that playoff spot.
Yeah, and so unfortunately, the Union don't get that Champions Cup berth because they don't win the 3rd place game. But Alejandro is right there. That it is huge, these next 2 games. You're playing teams that are ahead of you, and you probably aren't going to get in 4th place. But Jim Curtin said it after the game that the good thing is that Union's path is in their hands. You take care of your business, and you'll wind up getting one of those playoff spots. But something that Alejandro said there, which was very, very powerful, I thought. He said, I mean, it's no secret anywhere. Wherever you are in the world, 3 games in a week is tough. So that's where you need to have some rotation, you need to have some depth, and you need to be able to count on that depth. And those players that are given chances have to be able to perform and do well. And yeah, we talked about it. There is no depth on this team, or if you want to count Kevin Sullivan as depth, you want to count Chris Donovan as depth, you want to count Alawetu Makanya as depth, then yeah, I guess I have depth, but those guys don't strike me as difference makers off the bench. They really don't. Sam Dinaround, I think he's a good player. He's better than Chris Donovan, better than a Marcus Anderson. He's really good with his press. He's good at holding up the play, but yeah, we haven't seen him hit the back of the net yet. And you need a player off the bench that can change the game, get you a goal when you need a goal. Kevin Sullivan's not going to be that at 14 years old. He's a talented player. Yes, I know he scored against Columbus 2 today with the Union 2 in MLS Next Pro, but yeah, he's not going to be that difference maker. Can Alejandro Bedoya be that difference maker off the bench? I think so. I don't think he is what he once was defensively. His legs definitely aren't the same. He's not as quick as he once was, but yeah, I mean, it's concerning because I said it at the beginning. You're one suspension, one injury away from anybody in the back line getting hurt, where you're going to have serious issues. I'd imagine Nate Herriel comes in as a third center back if anything happens to Elliot or Glesnes. What did we talk about a lot last season? You ran Jacob Glesnes into the ground, and we saw him miss the playoffs because of that hernia surgery. And you saw him get off to a very slow start this year, and I think part of that was probably because he was still recovering from hernia surgery. And so, yeah, I mean, fingers crossed that none of these guys get hurt. None of these guys get suspended because Nate Herriel's your third most important player, in my opinion. And this season's so close to going off the rails if anybody gets hurt. I mean, that's the truth of the matter. It really is. You also heard Alejandro Bedoya speak there about Diego Rossi and Cucho Hernandez. And you even saw it in the video. Just he wanted to say it. He wanted to say it. He wanted to throw ownership under the bus. You know it. I know it. But he did well to bite his tongue and just keep his mouth shut. We've heard from Andre Blake. We've heard from Kai Wagner earlier in the season calling out ownership, saying they need to invest more. The owners go into the town hall and say they give Jim Curtin whatever he wants, Ernst Tanner whatever he wants. We played it last week on the podcast. That's on record now. But Alejandro's right. This Columbus team is not much different than the Union. The only difference is, again, I don't want to repeat myself, and I'm doing exactly that, is Diego Rossi and Cucho Hernandez. The Union are never paying $10 million for a player. But what's $6 million? You paid $2.8 million for Mikal Uhre. What's an extra $3 million? I don't think it's much of a difference, but for a team like the Union, it is a big difference. But if you want to win trophies, you've got to get these type of players. And we see it. We see it with Columbus. We're watching it. This team is not much different the way that it's been constructed compared to the Union. The only difference is they brought in 2-star players in the attack that make a difference, and the Union won't do that. Maybe they're doing it in the wintertime, but they didn't do it this transfer window. And because of that, I don't see how this team goes far in the playoffs. I do think they'll get in. They'll probably get in as a 7 or 8 seed, which means that you're going to play 2 out of 3 games if you take it to a third game in the first round. You're going to play them on the road, which is fine. I trust this team on the road, but you feel more confident with this team playing at Subaru Park because of what history shows you. But come on. Like, the players realize it. The fans realize it. The coaching staff realizes it. That you've got to invest more money in star players. Nobody is asking for is Zlatan Ibrahimovic or Marco Reus, Olivier Giroud. Nobody's asking for that. But it shouldn't be a big ask. And here I go, repeating myself, just like I did last week. It shouldn't be a big ask getting a Diego Rossi or a Chico Arango into this club. It shouldn't be. $6 million shouldn't be a lot of money. And again, I've said it so many times on this podcast, Diego Gomez, down and into Miami, you pay $3 million. He's sold for $15 million, up to $18 million into Miami can get. The Union have to do a better job investing in the U22 initiative. They got to. The Diego Gomez is a difference maker. Yes, you have Leo Messi. Yes, you have Luis Suarez. Game changers, generational players. But they've hit on these U22 spots. Look what RSL did with Gomez out there. They sold him for over $10 million. We're seeing teams be successful. And I know during the town hall, Ernst Tenner brought up other U22 players that haven't been successful. And he comes up with this excuse, well, if you look at Jack McGlynn, Quinn Sullivan, they're technically U22 players. Okay, true. Right. You're right. But that's not an excuse for you not to use that initiative. It is not. There's more times that I feel like with teams that have good scouting, Inter Miami has good scouting. Yes, it helps that they play in Miami. Everybody wants to come to Miami, but they have good scouting. And every single U22 player that they've signed, I think has been a hit. And so there's no reason why, with the front office that the Union has, with Ernst Tenner being at the helm of everything, seeing what he did at Hoffenheim, seeing what he did at Salzburg, there's no excuse why the Union don't go all in on the U22 next season. There's no excuse for it. And I know Ernst Tenner said they're going to go with the 2 DPs, 4 DP spots. Please do not give Jack McGlynn, Quinn Sullivan contract extensions to make them U22s. I mean, they deserve a contract extension, don't get me wrong. Please do not make that your only U22 initiative signings. Do not do it. This fan base cannot handle that. It's frustrating, right? And I try to take my fan hat off. And Bedoya talked about it. You know, they've been close on multiple occasions. And I really do hate bringing up the past. The Union would have beat Portland Timbers in 2021. That was not a good Timbers team. The Union were beating New York City in 2021. And then New York City scored 2 goals. Union fall apart, but to their credit, you know, they hung in strong there with a B and C squad because most of the team gets COVID. But I think if that team's healthy, they beat New York City. That's not a great New York City team in 2021. And they definitely would have beat Portland. And again, it goes back to, you know, what if 2022, you were 5 minutes away from beating LAFC. You fight back twice in that game. You eventually get the lead. You were so close in that game to winning a trophy. And that's been just the MO for this team for their whole history is close, but not close enough. And I understand why fans are frustrated. I understand why fans say they're not renewing their season tickets because, you know, if the ownership's not willing to invest, then why should the fans invest? I totally get it. 2025, it has the potential. It has the potential to be big. And I know we still have a season to get through, but I don't know. It just feels like to me that the Union are punting on the season. So let's see. I asked Jim Curtin on where he views Danley Jean Jacques' best position. It's about a 30-second clip, so I'll go ahead and play that here real quick. This is what Jim Curtin had to say on where they best see Danley.
He can do both. Again, we'll have to adjust and adapt in Jose's absence, who, you know, was a guy that kind of did the lone 6 for a lot of years. You know, Leon can do that. Chuchu can do that. Danley can do that. So we'll have to find the best combination. And I think week to week, it'll change, but he certainly can play right side of the diamond, left side of the diamond. He can play with 2 6s. He can play by himself as a 6. So I think that'll be a opponent-based decision and what the team needs in that week.
And I think we saw Danley play as the 6 against Colorado on Sunday. We saw him play as a 6 again against Columbus, right? He played as a 6, if I'm not mistaken, or did he play as a late an 8 on the left side of the field? Can't remember. I think he played as a 6. Jose, if you're still in here, I think you would know, right? You have a pretty good eye. But yeah, I do think Danley's going to be a fine signing for this team. And hopefully the Union can get more of these type of signings. Get another player like Danley. A player that's quick, a player that's good in transitions, because that's what this midfield needs. This midfield needs to be faster. And signing a player like Danley, fantastic signing. Or at least it looks like it's going to be a promising signing. Yes, it's 2 games. It's hard to judge him on, but in the 2 games that he's played, it's a lot to be excited for. And so if the Union can scout and find a player like that, and to Ernst Tenner's credit, he's had a lot of hits throughout his time here with Union. He has a fantastic eye. Nobody's saying that he doesn't have an eye for talent. But what people are saying is, you know, if Ernst Tenner was giving a little bit more money, imagine the type of players that he could scout, bring into this club. And I agree 100%. So, yeah, I mean, Danley can play as a 6, as an 8 there. You heard Jim Curtin say as in a double pivot with Leon Flacca, Jeśus Bueno. It's going to be game by game. So I think Danley, I think he'll be good for this team. I really do. And I don't think he's going to score 5 to 10 goals for you a season, but I do think he's going to be a player that you need. That's kind of like Jamir Montero, who was quick in transition, winning the ball back for you defensively and now pushing that ball forward. And so I do think that's what Danley gives you. And that's maybe not a surprise because Jamir was with Mets too when the Union brought him. That's where you got Danley from. And I don't know, maybe if Danley works out, then maybe that's a pipeline the Union should continue to go after because Jamiro was a hit. If Danley's a hit, then I don't know, let Mets go out and scout players. And after a couple seasons there, the Union just go to him and say, hey, look, we want to bring them to the Union. We've hit on 2 of your players now. Let's go ahead and make it a 3rd. But I don't know if that happens. Don't you think Mets would be like, all right, we're going to start charging a little bit more money because once these players leave us, they become really good. So the last thing that I want to play is Alejandro Bedoya talking about, is there extra pressure to win MLS Cup this season? And this is where he starts talking about Cucho and Diego Rossi. So I went on a rant where I should have saved it for this clip, but that's okay. This is Alejandro Bedoya, the last clip we're playing tonight, talking about, is there pressure to win MLS Cup with the core group of this team simply disappearing?
I could be very candid, but, I think I'll bite my tongue a little bit. But, look, we've had, over the last 5 years, 6 years, whatever, I don't know however long, we've been a very successful team. We've had a hell of a team, hell of good runs, and just been really, really close, And like I said, it's frustrating as a player to not get over that hump, if you will. Trust me, guys like myself, Dre, Jack, guys who have been here from the beginning of this kind of rise to the top of the league. We want a trophy, we want one. It's really bad. And so it hurts. It hurts to not be able to get over the hump. But we got what we got. We believe in ourselves. We believe in the team that we have. When everybody's fit, we know we can compete with anybody on any given day. But just last game, Columbus had 2 guys, Cucho and Diego Rossi, who made the difference. And we just haven't been able to, get over that hump here. We've had about probably a 3-4 year window there where we were really, really flying high and the chance was there. And I still believe in our chances this year, Like I said, we've been in good form lately and we got to continue that, And in this league, once you make it into the playoffs, it's a whole new season and anything can happen. So I'm still aiming for a trophy, MLS Cup. That's the main goal.
Yeah, and that's typical captain talk there from Alejandro saying, no, he's still aiming for a trophy. And I do feel bad for Alejandro. He comes back, which it didn't look like he was going to come back because of Ernst Tanner saying he only had a 30-second conversation, Alejandro Bedoya said that he only had a 30-second conversation with Ernst Tanner last year about coming back, and it didn't look like Bedoya was going to come back, but we heard comments from Bedoya in Jim Curtin in the press, and Bedoya eventually comes back. And I'd be shocked if he comes back again next year. He's getting paid a little bit over $400,000, and that money, in all honesty, could be spent better, could be spent elsewhere. But yeah, it's disappointing that, like I said, when I went on that rant, the players realize the type of players that they need. They know that those players, Diego Rossi and Cucho Hernandez, make the difference for Columbus. The reason why they have 2 trophies in the last 9 months. Now they're going to have the Campeones Cup. They could have won Champions Cup, but they get sick against Pachuca and lose the final down in Mexico. But everybody knows those are the 2 star players for Columbus, the 2 best players. And it doesn't matter how hard you mark them. Stars are going to win you games. And that's exactly what happened with Columbus against the Union. Diego Rossi stole the game against the Union. Cucho Hernandez steps up in the final against LAFC. Star players step up in the biggest moments. And unfortunately for the Union, they just don't have those type of players. And you heard Alejandro say it hurts. It hurts not to get over the hump. Hurts for players like Andre Blake for Jack Elliott, players that have been here for so long. They've seen the ugly with this team. They've seen the good with this team, and they've been a part of why this team's been successful the last 6 years. And it sucks. It really does that this core group of players only has one trophy to show for, and it's the MLS Supporter Shield in 2020 during the COVID season. You feel like with this group of players that they probably should have had more. They definitely should have had more trophies to show for, but at the end of the day, that's all they had. Had opportunity in 2021, COVID happens. Have an opportunity in 2022 in MLS Cup, and Gareth Bale happens. And 2023, yeah, don't really want to blame the referees, but it was a bad call. And I don't think this Union team would have got past Columbus last year if they would have beat Cincinnati, if I'm being honest. Yeah, this team fell short multiple times in semifinals and Champions Cup. And it's disappointing. It's disappointing that they've been 1 or 2 players away from really solidifying a dynasty. And it sucks. We'll be talking about this group of players 10 years from now and saying, what if? What if this would have happened? I mean, we're doing it now. And so I don't see why those conversations wouldn't continue. And it's sad. It really is. But we'll see. We'll see what happens with ownership. And we'll see if money really does get invested in 2025. It should. It really should. All you have to do is pay transfer fees. But let's go quickly over 3 stars, and then we'll get to Blunder of the Week. I haven't tried Blunder of the Week once we went live, so we'll see if there's an echo for you guys or not. Hopefully not. But my 3 stars, number 3, Daniel Gazdag, 2 chances created, 2 shots. Really good scoring positions by Daniel in this game. One of the saves was excellent by Zach Steffen. He had 1 interception, 7 ball recoveries. Daniel Gazag's been in fine form too. And so I talked about players that you can rely on. I said Nate Harriel, Kai Wagner, Andre Blake, Tai Baribo. I should have included Daniel Gazdag in that list too. Daniel Gazag's a player that's been having a fantastic season this year for the Union. Number 2, Kai Wagner, 1 assist, 3 chances created, 1 out of 1 tackles, 1 block, 2 ball recoveries. He does get beat once in this game, but other than that, I thought Kai was, again, solid offensively, always going to create a ton of chances for you. He's continuing to work his butt off defensively, one of your best defenders on the season. And then number 1, Tai Baribo scores 2 goals, and it sucks. It sucks that the Union don't win that 3rd place game, but you know, it is what it is, and we'll go ahead and try Blunder of the Week. I'm not sure how that's going to work with how we've had an echo anytime that I played clips, unless I mute myself or put myself backstage. But Blunder of the Week, the Premier League's in its 2nd week. So I don't know how many of you guys start your day off watching Premier League soccer, but Newcastle was playing Bournemouth on Sunday, I believe it was. And the Brazilian striker for Newcastle United, I'll leave a link in the show description. Again, I don't want to show the video and then NBC Peacock gets the live stream shut down because I'm showing the clip, so I'm not going to show it. I'll leave a link in the show description so you guys can see it for yourselves. But the Newcastle striker, Joelinton, he clotheslines the Bournemouth keeper after he comes and collects a cross, and he's only given a yellow card for that.
Yeah, not good.
How you only get a yellow card? I mean, he choked this guy. He choked him and threw him to the ground, and the referee says, yeah, that's fine. I'll only give you a yellow card for that. We talk about refereeing being bad in MLS. I just talked about it, the refereeing being bad against Cincinnati in the playoffs last year. But every week it seems like the refereeing so bad in the Premier League. Every single season, it's bad. I feel like there's been multiple times on this podcast where we've given Blunder of the Week to the referees in the Premier League. I know when I was doing my English Premier League and Champions League show, yes, the referees were the conversation a lot of times for Blunder of the Week, and it's only continued with this show. And so shout out to my old co-host, Tyler Elliott. Dude hateth referees, and I don't blame him. But that's Blunder of the Week. Hopefully no echo on YouTube for you guys when we did that. So if you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow @FreeKickPod, wherever you get your podcast, The Free Kick. Check out the Substack, thefreekick.substack.com, and the YouTube channel, youtube.com/freekickpod. We've been doing these podcasts live on YouTube. I would love for more and more people to join us live. We had 4 people at one time, it said. So it's not the greatest, but also I'll give people a break because one, it seems like streaming to Facebook's broke. Have to fix that somehow. And then anytime I schedule a live post, a live broadcast, that link never goes live. So got to try to fix those things, and I'm sure we'll get more people. But for the people that showed up, Jose, I know you commented tonight. I'm sure you're still here, so thank you for being here. Anybody else that joined us live on YouTube, still be here. And I guess we'll end the show saying #OnAdriana. So with that said, my name's Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.